everybody to Vibrations and Libations. I'm James.
And I'm Keith.
And tonight we're listening to what some people consider one album, other people consider it two different albums, but it's the Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 by Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
And this came out back in the 90s. It was what I consider Guns N' Roses' best effort as a whole.
Came out in 91.
91, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Back when music was on a great shift. There was a change back then.
And it was on MTV.
Yeah.
It was music on MTV back in those days.
Oh, yeah, weird. Why play music on music television?
Right. It's a crazy concept that just kind of died out all of a sudden.
I mean, you gotta have a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, it's true. So I know there's lots of Guns N' Roses fans out there, and maybe some new fans here recently since they have went back out on tour. I guess that happened last year. I don't know if they're still touring or not, but pretty much the original group, the main group, all got back together. So that was pretty cool. I would have liked to have seen that show, but didn't happen. So maybe there's time in the future that I can go and do that if they go around again. So
yeah, and they're getting along too.
Yeah.
Everything.
Axl did some stuff with AC/DC.
Yeah, Axl's not crazy. He volunteered to help AC/DC out so they could tour. And I mean,
I don't know if he volunteered. Did he volunteer?
Yeah, he volunteered.
He did. Oh,
yeah.
Way to go, Axl Rose, on that.
Yeah, he stepped up, and people say because he did that, singing AC/DC songs is hard.
Right.
And they say it helped his voice out.
Yeah, that's cool.
So,
all right, so
helped out the Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. So before we get too far into the albums here, we're also drinking Yuengling Black and Tan, a beer that's just recently been available in Kentucky.
Right, and you cannot mention Yuengling without the obligatory, the oldest brewery in America. So if you tell someone new about this, or if someone tells you about Yuengling, they're going to tell you it's the oldest brewery in America. Yes. And it is written on there somewhere.
And the liquor store that I bought this at,
brewery.
They have a huge banner in the liquor store I bought this at that says America's Oldest Brewery. So
yes. It's kind of a joke amongst people in the know, I guess.
Right. But I mean, I think that's a solid beer. Their lager is the only one I've ever had before. This will be the first time I've had a Black and Tan. For those of you who are not familiar with what a Black and Tan is, a Black and Tan is kind of a mixture between a stout and what else? Is it a lager or an ale?
Yeah, like a pub ale or something like that.
Right. And so basically, it would be if you got one in a bar or pub, it would be the ale on the bottom, and then it'd have a layer of the stout on top. And there's a special way you should pour it to make that difference there between the two. But I've never been successful to do that.
They've pre-mixed it in the bottle.
Yes.
So you don't have to disappoint yourself when you can't get it to separate.
Exactly.
And I've had other Black and Tans mixed in the bottle, and they've been subpar. So we'll see how this one goes. I have had this on tap.
Really?
And it is very good. Very good on tap.
The only time I've ever had a Black and Tan, I guess it was a Guinness and a Bass.
Yeah.
Together.
Like a real Black and Tan.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of one that's pre-mixed.
Right.
But I've had it pre-mixed on tap. It wasn't separated. It's just a good dark color. And but I love Black and Tans that are the traditional, the half and half separated pour. I've had it with Harps. I've had it with Bass and Guinness.
Yeah.
And Guinness and Harps is, made by St. James Brewery. So.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and open mine because I'm excited to see what this tastes like. If I can get it open.
In case you guys don't know, James has had an injury recently. He was in a bad car wreck and hurt his hand. So if he can't pour this right, it's only slightly because he sucks at pouring.
Yeah. The reason we haven't done any videos lately is because I was in a car accident and had to have surgery on my left arm. But that's all in the past now. The important thing is we're here now doing this. So.
Right.
Anyway, okay, so I'm looking at this, and it's not. I mean, you can tell it's not a stout completely. You can kind of see through it.
Well, actually, theirs Yuengling is brewed, made with half. It's not half. It is 60% dark brewed porter.
Oh, okay.
And 40% of their premium.
All right.
So they make a Yuengling premium.
Okay.
And I didn't really look at what the style of that was, but here you have it.
All right, so you can definitely taste the porter side of it.
It's supposed to be roasty and sweet.
I would say it's pretty sweet. And I think it's got that distinctive Yuengling. You know, if you've had enough Yuengling, you know what I'm talking about. It's got that Yuengling taste to it.
Yeah.
And I like it.
It is. It's a good. It's smooth.
It's a good. Yeah, it's a good drink. And again, I don't know if I poured mine correct or not. I like, you know, to have a little bit of a head on stuff, but this is not bad. It's not real light in body. I think it's got a pretty decent body to it.
Real good color to it.
I could down about a 6-pack of those at a campfire, bonfire, no problem.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, let's go back and talk about the albums that we're listening to here. Again, it's Guns N' Roses' Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and I'll just start off by talking about number 1. Some of the songs on that. The first album, or Use Your Illusion 1, has 16 songs on it. And if you know anything about Guns N' Roses before these, their first 2 albums, Appetite for Destruction, and then Lies, or some people call it Lies, 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 because of the way it's printed on the album. I don't really know which way is the right way. But anyway, those albums are nothing.
Just one lie. I'm lazy.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I mean, they're nothing compared to just Use Your Illusion 1.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at maybe almost twice the amount of songs on Use Your Illusion 1. Some of those songs are Live and Let Die, which is a remake of Paul McCartney and Wings' classic. Don't Cry, which is 2 versions of that song. November Rain, which was an awesome video back in the days on MTV.
Oh, Slash hated the video.
Really?
That scene where he goes outside and plays his solo.
Yeah.
He actually walked out at that wedding because he's like, "Fuck getting married."
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And then the epic Coma.
Yeah.
That is that's one of my favorite songs on Use Your Illusion 1. And oddly enough, with the release of both of these, I don't really know if it's odd or not, but Use Your Illusion 1 sold less copies and debuted at number 2 on the Billboard charts, and Use Your Illusion 2 sold more copies and debuted at number 1. So kind of a flip-flop there if you're looking at numbers. But
yeah, which one was 2 the one that sold so many in just hours after its release?
Yeah, I think it sold like 50,000 copies in like the first 4 hours or something like that. I think I read that online. I mean, it was an insane amount of copies. But these Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, they were so anticipated and were put on hold for a long time. There was a lengthy wait there between Lies and the release of Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. There was a lot of, from what I've read, difficulty getting the songs recorded, putting them down, and they were going from studio to studio, and I think they were actually using some of the songs on the tours they were doing before the albums even come out.
Yeah.
So as they were in a city for a tour, they would go to a studio, record some for it, and just kind of hopscotched across America, I guess, and recorded when they could and where they could.
Right.
So it's kind of maybe a little unorthodox. I don't know on how they got it done, but
the band was, the band was, they were hardcore, going like crazy, drinking, drugs, and everything. They were falling apart at this time.
Right.
Axl Rose was removing himself from the band because he was. Took himself way too seriously, I would say at the time. It's safe to say. I think even Axl would say, as an artist, too seriously. But at the same time, he was like, guys, you can't be partying so much. We got to do this. We got business to take to. I mean, this is serious. Let's get serious. And music is serious business, but it's got to be fun too. But the other guys were way too much on the fun party side. If anybody's ever watched Duff's. documentary that he has where he's kind of sitting and talking about the Guns N' Roses day as he even goes into Velvet Revolver later on.
Right.
And he's talking about the way he's talking about how they were partying. You know, no wonder Axl was doing his own thing at this time and going away. And he was kind of pushing the band in a different direction too, wanting to do, they considered it more grown-up music, I guess, you know. They were still hardcore, you know, we're more punks, let's do this.
Yeah, and Appetite for Destruction definitely has that kind of punk, kind of hard rock feel to it. Lies, even more, a lot of Lies. Some people say that's like a live album, but it's got some live tracks on it, but there are some studio songs on there too, like Patience, awesome song, not recorded live. But I mean, you know, they kind of, when you listen to Patience, you can kind of hear the precursor to Use Your Illusions 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So you know, go back, and if you haven't listened to Lies ever, or if you haven't listened to it in a long time, go back and try and find that and listen to it, and then, you know, kind of it's kind of like the meat and the sandwich there between Appetite for Destruction and the Use Your Illusions, because it's got a little bit of taste of both in it, you know, in that album. So it's a good listen if you haven't experienced that before. So what are the songs on Use Your Illusion 2?
Use Your Illusion 2, we have Civil War. I'm just going to name them all. Civil War, 14 Years, Yesterdays.
Yeah, awesome.
Knocking on Heaven's Door, Get in the Ring, Shotgun Blues, Breakdown, Pretty Tied Up, Locomotive, So Fine.
So Fine, that's a great song.
Estranged, You Could Be Mine, very popular track.
Yeah.
Don't Cry, it's got alternate lyrics to it. And My World, being the last track that we're trying to figure out what it is. But, you know, it's kind of like, we both agree, it's kind of like Axl's stamp.
Yeah.
This is my world, this is my, I did this.
Exactly.
That's what I think.
We kind of compared the Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 to Roger Waters' kind of Control that's been reported about on when Pink Floyd did The Wall, because I mean he's pretty much the force behind the album The Wall. And I think that My World is kind of the, like you said, the stamp, the trademark from Axl on it, saying this was my creation. The other guys kind of helped me, which kind of goes back into what you said earlier about him taking himself too seriously. So if you put 1 and 2 together, there's a total of, I'm counting 30 songs.
Yeah.
16 on Use Your Illusion 1, 14 on Use Your Illusion 2. So I mean, just a total epic release. And I remember when it finally did come out, you know, they had a midnight release, you know, and I remember seeing stories on the news, like on like national news of this album coming out, and people just filling up record stores to, you know, to buy it. Almost kind of like what a video game would be today. You know, like a PlayStation or Xbox game. People just lined up waiting to buy them. Or, you know, the newest Star Wars movie or something like that. I mean, people were just, you know, chomping at the bit trying to get to these albums, and when they finally came out, they just went fucking crazy over it.
Yeah.
So I remember my uncle, he bought it on one of the midnight releases. I don't know where he bought it at, but then he brought it home to me because he didn't like it.
So, bonus for you.
Yeah, so I ended up with, you know, 2 cassettes, and, you know, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and I was like, this is awesome. He's like, oh, you can have them, I don't like them. I was like, okay, cool. So if it hadn't have been for him getting that, I don't know, you know, if I had gotten them or not. But I'm glad that he gave them to me. So
right.
All right. So
I didn't stay up late to get it or anything. I just bought it a little bit later on. But I had them on cassette as well.
Right. Yeah. Everything I had back in the day was on cassette. So.
Oh yeah.
CDs were too expensive for me.
Yeah. I didn't start getting CDs till probably about 1993.
Yeah. So I'm going to ramble on just a little bit more on these albums here. They're iconic albums, very colorful. The artwork on this was done by an artist named Matt Kostabi. I don't know if I'm saying that right, and if I'm not, please forgive me. And they're kind of his take on original works by Raphael.
Yeah.
And that was the School of Athens. That's what I read here. And he just kind of added his own little touch to them. But I mean, they stand out. The red and the yellow, and then the purple and the blue. I mean, they definitely stand out.
This is the day. This is the night.
Yeah, and then just another little geek out on these two albums. The predictions for the release were that the albums would be like sales of Michael Jackson's Thriller, and although chain stores like Walmart and Kmart would not sell them at first because of the language and the themes of some of the songs. So,
Walmart wants to edit music, but they sell videos.
Yes.
They'll sell rated R videos, all kinds of stuff going on in those, but they want to edit the music you listen to.
Right. Way to go, Walmart.
Yeah, you suck.
I think eventually they did jump on the bandwagon maybe and ended up selling them, and then just like, any good business will do, jumping on the bandwagon. I know Walmart sells vinyl now at certain locations, so way to jump in there, Walmart.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, that happens apparently. So do you know about any of the people who contributed, other famous musicians who contributed to these albums?
Well, there's Shannon Hoon.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, so I wouldn't mess up the name again.
and then there's Shannon Hoon quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he's all over Use Your Illusion 1.
Right.
And
lead singer for Blind Melon, for those who may not know who that is.
And he's singing backing and co-lead vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know he was on Live and Let Die.
Mm-hmm.
And what else was he on there, James?
Live and Let Die, November Rain, You Ain't the First, and The Garden.
And also on The Garden, when I was going back and listening to the album, I was like, man, that song right there sounds like Alice Cooper. And he sings co-lead vocals on that song. So. Come to find out later after, I was like, man, this is an Alice Cooper song made over. and
sure enough,
yes, it was.
Alice Cooper was there, yeah, exactly. So they had, to me, the Alice Cooper I can see, the Shannon Hoon on there, I would not put together.
I still can't pick his voice out.
Well, I can a little bit, but the thing that I don't get, and I'm not a huge Blind Melon fan, but just the type of music that Blind Melon did versus Guns N' Roses, I don't know where the connection there was.
Well, Blind Melon is more, I don't know, it's heady. It's kind of like in your head, in the clouds, I don't know. That's where my head goes when I listen to Blind Melon.
Right.
I like to get out there, and that's where it's at. It's more of in your head, kind of psychedelic.
Kind of like a Brotherhood album.
Yeah, kind of like Brotherhood.
Yeah.
And but Axl, and the boys, they're all. It's like raw sex, drugs, and rock and roll, 100%. But Shannon Hoon was a partaker of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. He was into that, so
Right.
I mean, it takes all kinds. It takes
absolutely
to make us as a human. There's all aspects of us that we don't know about.
Yeah.
I don't know your freaky shit.
You don't want to know about
Who
my
knows
freaky
what
shit.
James is up to in the dark?
Only I know about my freaky shit. My wife don't even know about that, so neither does she need to know, but anyway. All right, so in risk of making this video too terribly long, because we're talking about Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusion 1 and 2.
2 albums or 1.
The 2 albums or 1. I personally...
It was more smooth, but that shit wasn't fucking smooth.
Right.